Oh, at least we're gonna get to the next fishing. I will actually say, we're spending a lot of time fishing today, and I should give a little bit more personal backstory for my fishing after I read Squiggin' Time. Right, mate, this time you must catch as many squidges as you can within the time limit. I reckon 50 should be no problem. Get going. Record catch is 0 squidges. But yeah, so I was just explaining, my dad loves to fish. He's a pretty outdoorsy guy, likes to hunt, likes to fish, used to camp a bit, not really much of a camper now, but lives on a planet where there's already a lake right next to where his house is. So like he's got the hookup. Fishing is just a little bit away if he wants it. And like when you're a kid, you see dear old dad doing the thing, and you're just like, yeah, sure. I talked about sports. Dad likes sports. This is when you're like, yeah, I can try sports for a little bit, until that whole severely sprained leg thing that I had going on. So you see that with fishing too, and you're just like, all right, cool. I'll try the fish. And then I discovered early my desire to keep things clean. Because you know the very first thing you do when it's father-son fishing time, dad's just like, here, put the worm on the hook. And you're just like, worm? And then he's just like, yeah, here it is. You just take the worm. And it's already dirty because, you know, worms stay in the dirt cup, right? So you take it out. It's all wiggling. It's moving around. It's already kind of its own special kind of worm slimy. Because, you know, worms just do that, be able to move. And it's like, I don't like this already wiggly thing, and it's hard to put on the hook. And it's just like, you'll get used to it. And then you figure out just the scale of your actions. Okay, like, you figure out what a superhuman you are over the little organisms of the universe. Because you pierce that, and you see it start to bleed, and the little, like, worm guts of that particular segment, like, come out. And I'm like, ew, 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 ew. I don't like any of this. This worm's bleeding on me. There's insides coming out that I just stabbed out of it. You call this sane? Is this a thing you're supposed to do? I don't want to do this. And he's like, all right, come on, son. All right, I'll put the bait on. I'll put it on the hook, okay? Or like tapeworms. Tapeworms are a little okay because they're just cute, stubby little dudes. They aren't really slimy, and they don't really bleed. You just kind of put the little nubby dude on the hook. So he's like, either I'll put on the earthworm, or you can get little tapeworms if we're pan fishing. And you can throw it when, you know, you're not hooking your own clothes like a ding-dong, because when you're little, you do not know how to properly cast. And it's just like, I get it out there, and it's like, cool. And then you get the bite, right? And you're just like, oops, I fell down a hole. You pull the fish from the watering hole, and you're like, look, I have the fish on the line. And now, Dad's like, cool, here, like, hold the fish. And I was like, I'm supposed to hold that thing? And he says like, yeah, just hold the fish. Like, it's fine. What's it gonna do? You've already caught it. It's like a bluegill. This thing isn't that big. And it's like, you go to try to grab it, and then it's just flapping about, and you're like, oh, no! Look, every time I try to grab it, it starts to move. And then, you know, most fish, if they have like upper fins, those things can be kind of spiny. So you get kind of poked. And you're like, eh. It's just like Diddy Kong going, that was me. And it's just like, oh boy, this fish, not only is it wet and slippery, it's also pokey, and it won't stop wiggling. So it's just, Dad's just sitting there, and it's just like, boy. this shouldn't be that hard. Do you or do you not want to fish? And it's like, well, you like being with your dad. So it's like, yeah, I don't mind being out here. Riding on the boat is cool. It's nice to feel the wind on your face when you're out in the waters. Like, in your head, you just get to play like Wind Waker sailing music. Like, that's cool. The sunshine is cool. I like the trees. Like, outdoors is pretty scenic. It's just most of the touching and fishing just wasn't doing it for me. And all right, and it gets worse. So also then my dad, being a fisherman that he is, likes to make like pan fry and stuff. Like, you get your little fish and you're like, it's fish fry time. You get to, I know it doesn't blind here. We are safe. Ho, ho, ho. I'm going to celebrate that one. But so my dad's just like, yeah, carving fish to fillet them can be a pretty big deal and it can be kind of dangerous, right? And this is more like God's power in your little mitts, or like in human hands when it's your dad. So as a kid, you don't really see what's happening. This isn't really brought up to you because, you know, you probably aren't quite ready to handle the concepts of ending a life for food. You just have the food put in front of you. And you're like, yay, it's food. Time for the food. But you get old enough, and since, you know, your dad likes outdoorsy stuff, you're just like, it's time to go on, man, that level was short. You go on scouting kid adventures. And one of the things, there's like, here's the fishing. Like the fishing badge. The fishing activity, okay? And this beaver's just the same. They don't even recover. Oh, that's right. They pull a cave rule style falling thing on this. I'm just gonna say, before I continue, we're in a literal cave of bananas, right? Like, in the overworld, you're supposed to be stepping aside this mound of bananas. How come there's like stalagmites growing from the top of my bananas? What kind of bananas am I saving? Are these just unique bananas up there that are falling? Also, wow, 3 hits? That was short. All right, let's get our cranky speeds out before I continue. Are my old eyes playing tricks? I'm sure I've seen that beaver before. Where could it have been? I know, they didn't even recolor. Grab the banana and give it to me. Head down to the mountain to the factory. Okay, you got it, pal. But yeah, so I'm in the great fishing activity. They're just like, time to do the fishing thing. And first half, catching fish. You're like, all right, I kind of know how to do it, although the whole worm thing sucks. And you go through the motions. And then they're like, okay, kiddos, time to show you how to fillet a fish. If you're going to be doing outdoorsy stuff, like the scouting thing's all about, you're going to want to be able to make your own food, right? You're out here in the wilderness. You know how to catch the fish. This is how you prepare the fish. And so they have their fish on the table, which I'm guessing was recently caught. And they start to fillet it, right? So even though the thing wasn't moving at the time, what happens is they strike like the nerves that are still there, and the fish starts flopping. There is this, or like actually better to say, this body. Like they remove the head, and then the body starts moving, and it flops off the table. Like its nerves and muscles go ballistic. It just flops right off the table, and this scars the bejeebus out of me. I was like, oh my God, this thing has no head, and it just went into the grass. It went into the dirt. This thing's alive. And I was like, I can't handle it. I'm never doing this. This is way too much. Not only do you have to make things bleed to catch the fish, and you have to make things bleed to prep the fish come back to life. I'm never going to do this. I hate every part of this. I will eat fish on occasion. I am never going to fillet a fish, even if I'm going to die. Because that body will come back to life, and it's going to slap me. It's going to jump up, and it's going to hit me in the face without a head. And every part of it is going to be miserable. It's going to be miserable because it's dead. I'm going to be miserable because it's hitting me. And it's just the worst. So that's my story about fishing. I understand its purpose. I'm never going to do it myself. It's just too much for me, okay? It's just... This is why I eat chicken. That's all I'm saying. Oh, give me a drink. I'm getting way too animated. I'm going to jot around a bit because that water's so darn good. Oh, boy. But yeah, that's the same kind of thing. Like, kudos the people who are willing to be able to do flaying. My older brother has been around, and like, he doesn't like to fillet either. So, I don't blame him. That gets pretty gnarly, all things considered. So, like, if we go into the other neck of woods, I talked about my dad wanting to hunt for stuff, right? So, we typically like to go, or I did this more as a kid, because once again, your dad does cool things, and he invites you, and you're just like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So deer hunting was one of those things. He had a couple preferred, like, planetary spots that are nice and wintry and cold, where it'd be like, yeah, you just go register for your license, you get your permit to be able to tag a couple deers. This planet can get kind of overpopulated with them, so to have the deer not be a problem to, like, nature or to us as we're trying to park our ships and not have deer get in the way, we're gonna go deer hunting. So it's just like, yeah, okay, sure. And you just head out and you go do the same thing. And it's just like, here is gun, son. You shoot deer when you see deer. And only when you see deer. And then you just get to hang out in the cold. And I'll be honest, like, I was young enough. It was partially an excuse to leave school. Because it's just like, yeah, we go for a week. And I was like, wow, I don't have to do school stuff for a week. And you're just like, okay, sure. I can go on an adventure. I get to see more nature. I've already established I like nature. And I get to go somewhere a little different. And we get to go do the thing, right? You get to go out. And for many years when I would do it, because this is like late middle school and high school for me. You just get to head out, and we never really caught anything. And it mainly involved with us waking up in the dead of early morning. We're talking like 3 or 4 a.m. Because, you know, the strat is to be around at twilight. Because deer settle down for the day. And they'll just like, they'll rest or sleep, lay down during the daylight hours. They're mainly like evening, nocturnal based, you know. So they come out to eat during the morning and the night when the sun's settling up or down. But so we wake up super early, and I'm just kid boy with kid brain, ready to like stay on my little kid schedule. So like, wake up, and we stop at the fuel station, the convenience store. We have our little donut, and it's still like a half an hour to get to the spot. So I end up sleeping in the ride there in our ship. And then we get there, we're layered up. I'm in like 4 layers. And he's just like, here, son, here's your gun. This is the spot you're going to sit at. Like maybe set up a tree stand or something. And he's just like, keep an eye out. This is going to be our first stop for the day. Probably give it an hour or 2 or so. And we'll see what we find. And he sticks me there, and I'm out like a light. I'm in my 4 layers. I've got like my neck warmer. I've got my face mask on and everything because, you know, cold. And honestly, you're just sitting there and pretty comfy. So you're just like, I know it's 20 degrees, but what if I just fall asleep? So then you just fall asleep. And it's so nice and peaceful and quiet. That makes it even worse, you know? So it's just like, you're just this little dude strapped into his tree stand. So you're not going to fall out anyways. And you just end up taking a nap. And it's such a nice nap. And this was me all the time. It'd be like a pop-up blind. And like, I'd be there just like with a blanket around me as well. And you're like, bro, this pile of leaves that are like half frozen, but not completely solid. And this, I remember, yep. I got smacked around by that before, not again. But yeah, I'm in my blanket with my slightly soft pile of half frozen leaves. And it's just like, I'm gonna nap. Napping, pretty cool. And then, you know, because it's so quiet out in the woods, you get woken up by the rustling of your father's boots. So you wake up just in time to be hopefully fully awake, but sometimes half awake by the time your dad comes back. And he's just like, oh yeah, do you see anything? You're like, nope, I didn't see a thing. Nothing came by. Of course, you know, he knows a little. So he's just like, Corshel, you fell asleep again, didn't you? Or like times you don't wake up when you're like in the tree stand and you just get called out and he's like, yo, Corshel. And you wake up and he's like, whoa. You're like, I'm here. I'm here. I'm awake. He's just like, you can get down. Well, we'll just start for the next stop. And after that, I was good. It was always the first stop that was the hard one. That was the one where you fall asleep because it's like 4:30 and everything's still dark and everything's nice and quiet and you're just ready for more nap. You're just a baby boy. But then afterwards, like, it'd be times where we would go and hunt. It'd be these like acres of land that would be for wood harvesting because it's like paper companies or like furniture stuff would use these trees. So they have giant squares of trees set up of different kinds of trees for different types of purposes. So they give each square like X amount of years, trees hit certain heights and they're like nice little organized rows. And eventually they go and harvest it through, they clear out the stumps, they plant new trees, they start anew, right? Pretty easy. So occasionally you do like these drives where you're given a direction to go. Your dad's Dude Ski. That's a good name. Thanks, Funky. Let me get through this before I continue. Bummer. The water is full of trash. Collect as much as possible within the time limit. More trash collected, the better my reward. Haul in at least 10 pieces and don't hook any fish. We're gonna get the trash. Oh boy. Alright, he's gone through his many phases of acceptance where he didn't want to talk about his drinking problem. He's not even admitting it. Wait a second. He's not saying it's his drinking problem. I'm just cleaning up after him now. What's going on here? Oh, Funky, you can't fool me. Oh. But yeah, for these acres, Dadarinos, just like, man, this was so easy. Funky % is not a hard speed run. So, Dad's just like, go this direction. So I have this clip-on compass, like the little spheres on me. And it's like the water buoy, like magnet compass. So it's just like, take this and go in this direction and you'll come out the other side. So you start off in that way, and being the genius kid that I am, it's just like, I'm going this way, and eventually you look down and you're just like, maybe it's actually this way. And you end up getting lost for a bit. And once you feel like you're lost or that you missed some turn, because there's other times, if my dad would know that lot well enough, he'd be like, you'll get to this certain type of hill or clearing. Turn and go like east now instead of north. And maybe I veered slightly. Like maybe I'm going northwest and I don't get to that clearing. And now I just don't know where I am. So you're just like, I never saw this clearing. I'm just going to keep going north. So you go north and you go north And you go so far north, and who knows how long of time, and you just pop out at the next road. And you're just like, I went the wrong way. I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Something went wrong. So you look at the compass and you see where east is. And you're like, I guess I'm just going to round the corner of this road where I'm just halfway down this like 5-block road. And I'm just going to eventually, round my way back to our ride. Woo! Okay, I'm glad I made it through that. That was a little risky. But so you end up going on this trek, and once again, it's winter, so you're in a good amount of layers. You gotta be safe, right? Don't want to freeze. Don't want any little bits getting colder. I got intercepted there. Don't want anything getting colder than it should. No frostbite. Frostbite bad. We ain't about that here. Safety. But so it's approaching noon. The sun is out. It's sunny, blue skies. It's not windy. And you're going through all this brush. There's like twigs and stuff where prior trees were, maybe like little branches. You're going up and down little hills. You work up such a sweat. And you're just like, oh, I haven't seen a single deer. And I almost ran into that bee again. It's like, I haven't seen a deer. I'm lost. I've been out here for what feels like forever. And now I'm getting hot. I'm sweating in all these layers. As soon as you hit the road, you might be in 4 layers, like some like Under Armour, there's like fleece, and like a thin coat with a big coat. It's all coming off besides the bottom shirt. You're just like, you're trudging down like the trooper you are, and you're just like, oh, that same little spot is there. It saved me like in Mania. That's so nice. But I'm just like taking everything off. I'm stripping down once I get out to that road. And like my dad's been waiting where I should have come out of for probably 10, 15 minutes. And he's just like, you got lost, didn't you? And you're like, yeah, Dad, I'm cold. Well, actually, no, not cold. It's like, I'm hungry. I'm sweaty. Can we take a lunch break? And we would never really like stay out for any longer than like 3 or 4 p.m. Then we go back to town and have like dinner. Family happened to live on the planet we'd visit for deer hunting. So you'd have dinner with like uncles. Oh boy, that actually lets me talk a little more in a second. But yeah, you'd be able to have dinner at a restaurant. And like, that was neat. You get cool food. You get to be out, dodge school for a bit. I had some great relatives. So like, you prepare your hunting like menagerie. And when you're out there in those necks of woods, you get like the perfect like northern man who's ready to go. Like, you have these big, stocky, lovable uncles with like their beer bellies. Oh, hello there, friend. And they're like beards and everything. And like, they are just northerners. And there was one like uncle-in-law or something in particular who swore up a storm in every single sentence he spoke. My dad put it best in summarizing that approximately every other word was a swear. And when you are with like sportsman types for like fishing or hunting, these are the guys who come at you with like the stories, right? It's the like, you should have seen the pointers on this guy. I was this effing close. I don't really want to swear up a storm on stream, but like every sentence I just said there, just like put in some expletives. Just like here or there. And it was better too, because like this particular guy, very lovable. I think he was generally a good guy. But he was like an older guy too, because he's like the uncle of my dad and my uncle. So he's like grandpa status. And so like you can't really get around well in thick woods. So there's like logging trails, right? Like, oopsie doops, I messed up that roll jump. So there's these logging trails that follow in, because it trucks at certain batches in these sacred sections that are like scheduled for clearing the trees. You got to be able to get the trucks in there, right? So there's these roads you can follow, and ATVs can go in there. So there's this lovable dude who's teaching me many words when I'm young. And he's just like he just rides his ATV and he hits the trails with a gun tucked like in his arm, and he's ready to find deer from his ATV. And whoops, I should have waited to the light. And he's ready to take the shot. And he's also the type of guy, while responsible, he made sure not to shoot while there was any like orange about, because you gotta have your like safety neon orange, right? But he's the guy who would definitely shoot 2 to 3 rounds thinking he's gonna hit anything. So then, of course, like, you're just out at your spot, just like hanging out and chilling. And you just hear like, bang, bang. And you're just like, oh boy. He's found the deer. He's allegedly found the deer. So you get back and you discovered he has in fact not found the deer. But he's sure just like, man, you should have seen this buck I found. It was so big. It would have been the catch of the year. And I was like, man, yep. My dad's just like, you got it, pal. My dad was equally as dismissive, where like, you love being able to chat with this dude, but he's, the party showed up. But it's just like, yep. You definitely would have caught him on your motorized vehicle, right?